I think we are getting started now. So I see some folks joining the room. And I guess for folks who are joining from all over the world, can you drop in the chat where you're joining from, just so we know? All right, great. So I'm just going to get started and introduce all the panelists. And I think, folks have the bio, so I'll just give a really brief overview and then a fun fact about all of our speakers for the panel. So to kick it off, we have Kendrick Yen, and he is the CEO and co-founder of Republic. It's a leading investment platform that gives people the power to invest in the future they believe in. So it's really for Main Street investors, as well as accredited investors, correct, Ken?
Yes, everyone.
Everyone. And his fun fact is that he bought his first Bitcoin prior to an interview with Naval, who's the founder of AngelList, for a job at AngelList. So Ken used to work at AngelList before he founded Republic. And then the next we have Ola, you got to help me pronounce your last name. Is it Doudin?
Correct.
Awesome. So Ola is the co-founder and CEO of BitOasis. It's the first and largest digital asset exchange in the Middle East. And her fun fact is that in 2014, she could not find a place to buy Bitcoin in the Middle East. So she bought her first Bitcoin from a friend based in Toronto, who later partnered up with her on her first crypto venture. And that didn't kick off, but it really planted the seeds for BitOasis. And next we have Ben Liams. And again, help me if I'm mispronouncing your last name. And
Liams, but Liam Neeson is my favorite actor. So.
Oh, great. Okay. So we're close. Ben Liams, he's a senior director at Abra, a crypto investing app to buy, sell, store, and earn interest on top cryptocurrencies. And his fun fact is, before Abra was known for crypto investing, it first launched as a remittance app to send payments overseas and the Philippines. And so Ben actually relocated there for several months, and rumor has it that their first partnership was sealed over San Miguel beers and karaoke renditions of Bon Jovi. So thanks so much for joining. And we have Talal, which I think we just may have lost him, which is fine. But Talal is the co-founder and COO of Gibrel, a Swiss blockchain development company building decentralized financial products in Ethereum. He's also the co-founder of CoinMena, and that's what we're going to focus on today. It's a regulated cryptocurrency exchange in Bahrain, and he also serves on the board of the Middle East Payment Services in Jordan. And his fun fact is that Talal has invested in over 350 ICOs, usually with the minimum investment required. So very fun. So let's kick it off. And I want to just mention a disclaimer here. I know none of you are financial analysts, and we also want to advise the folks who are listening in that nothing here is considered as financial advice. So, just start off with that disclaimer. And I think everyone's wondering, why was there such an upsurge in crypto earlier this year with record highs for both Bitcoin and other coins? I think that it's gained a lot more popularity. So,
I may venture a thought with the pandemic and then the lack of confidence in the public markets. Additionally, the stimulus programs in the US and around the world, I think there's a flight from both the public markets, where the public markets have been doing very well, but there's certainly folks who are, who believe that there's irrationality around the public market craze, but also wanting to expose themselves to new asset classes. And I think these kind of traditional market volatility had led to a lot of more capital being fueled into alternative assets, particularly crypto assets. And then side by side with that is this retail revolution of retail investors finally wanting to get in more and more and more. And I think it's a function of people staying at home and learning more and, joining these conversation online with more mental space and get excited about owning things, about participating. Those two factors, my guess, are some of the contributions to this frothiness in the crypto space.
Thank you, Ken. And anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I'd echo actually what Kendrick has mentioned. I think this price rally has been led by institutional capital or adoption of primarily, I would say, like Bitcoin versus the bull market that we've experienced in like late 2017. And a lot of it, I think, is buying into the narrative and the story of hyperinflation, essentially, obviously, post the pandemic and the state of the public markets. Again, I think it's really a strong narrative that emphasizes the importance of Bitcoin as a new asset class and a hyperinflation hedge. So you kind of really see Bitcoin filling that type of application or having that specific product market fit. I think it's an interesting time. To some extent, I think obviously that story and narrative is true. To some other extent, there's a lot of perhaps in terms of like exaggerating that narrative as well. But at the end of the day, I think what's true in this price rally that Bitcoin is an asset class that has been de-risked more and more over the last 3 to 5 years, and it's an asset class that is here to stay. And obviously, there are other types of innovation that is happening in this space that, to some extent, the narrative of hyperinflation in Bitcoin has eclipsed that. Essentially, the innovations happening in the DeFi space, NFTs, which is fueling as well some of the adoption that we're seeing, but probably more on the retail aspect versus the institutional aspect.
Wonderful. And Talal, we were just talking about the upsurge in crypto from earlier this year with record highs. And I think Ken and Ola covered it, but if you want to add anything.
Yeah, sorry, I think I was overworking the number of tabs I was having on my computer, so had to shut everything down and come back on. So my take's quite simple. I think for crypto, it was a matter of when and not if. So last year we saw when basically the financial markets kind of collapsed in March of last year, there was a really big challenge to Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, because supposedly a safe haven asset shouldn't crash the way that Bitcoin crashed. But I think since then it's matured a lot, and the type of investors that we've seen go into Bitcoin, whether it's Tesla, whether it's Paul Druckenmiller, whether it's I think it's just a matter of time until we see sovereign countries also announcing their investments in Bitcoin. I guess Bitcoin is like the torchbearer for all other crypto assets that kind of follow suit. We'll see all sorts of or we're already seeing all sorts of different innovations in asset classes that we couldn't even imagine before. So yeah, very exciting time to be in crypto.
Wonderful. And I think, for the audience who are probably varying degrees of experts in this space, I think it would be really good to define the difference between cryptocurrency exchanges and how they're different from wallets, especially since we have Ben here from Abra. So can we let's define that before we move forward.
Sure, I'll take a stab. I mean, I think in a nutshell, wallets are for holding crypto, exchanges are for trading, buying and selling. And of course, speaking with my own interest at heart, Abra, the company I work for, has a wallet app that is a little bit more than just buying and selling. We also have the ability to hold, invest crypto, earn a yield, as well as now, as of yesterday, borrow dollars against your crypto holdings. So going back to your original question, simple difference between wallets and exchanges. One is for trading, one is for holding.
Awesome. So, and what are some maybe use cases that you guys can speak to for blockchain technologies that have long-term value and potential? I know we've seen kind of varying degrees of this over the last several years, but what do you think are some of the best use cases, for 2021 and going forward? And I'm also curious if there's been any kind of differences since the pandemic started and how that's kind of shifted people's perspective on blockchain technology.
About that, but going back, an exchange or fintech provider, I think a relatable example for anyone in the Middle East is the hassali, like the piggy bank. A wallet is what is your piggy bank. You have it at home. an exchange, you're giving your money to an intermediary where you can get financial services. But I think we need to move away from the narrative of blockchain. Crypto is what's exciting. So I think the concept of like blockchain and crypto is similar to what we had with intranet and internet, or at least with private blockchains. And the biggest use case is basically democratizing access to financial services. If you think of how banks, how fintech companies have been structured, I come from a country, Jordan, where over 60% of the people don't have access to financial services or banking. And that's because the way banks are set up, they have, even if they're digital banks, the way they're set up doesn't allow them to scale. So I think the best use case for crypto is democratizing access to finance. And that can mean borrowing, lending. And yeah, I'll end with one point is crypto can give us a fair system. If I am, I don't know, a top-rated company with headquarters in Switzerland, I'm able to borrow at near zero interest rates. Yet if I'm an employee and I'm taking a payday loan, even if I have 0% chance of default because they're going to deduct the payment towards the end of the month, I still have to pay insane interest rates like 30 to 40%. So crypto can offer us a fairer, more scalable financial system.
You know, I want to add a second narrative to that, Talal, and agree with everything that you just said. I would love to get everyone's take on the growing disparity that we're seeing in society, and it certainly is driven in part by crypto investing as well. So let's pick the United States. I'm currently in New York, where you have the stock market performing better than ever, but 30% of the population or so unemployed, and those who have and are able to access gain in wealth exponentially. And so you look at crypto as a space, and I think it's still by and large the purview of the informational elite, not necessarily the traditional elite, but those of us who have the involvement, the comfort level to participate and are able to vote right and share in this frothiness. But it's very clear that much of the world is lagging behind. And the question still on my end is, how can we have this ecosystem that is so additive, that is doing so well, to be even more accessible? I think we've gone a long way from just 2-3 years ago in the number of people who get involved, but I think that percentage is still quite low. And I think on our side, at Republic and personally, I think the lens on improving that informational disparity, which in turns necessarily results in the financial and the social disparity that we are seeing, and that's growing at an alarming rate.
Yeah, actually, I can add a bit of perspective in terms of what we see here in BitOasis in the Middle East. So, for example, a lot of our customers on the retail side, they are investing in Bitcoin before investing in stocks. You know, investing in crypto is their first exposure to essentially holding an asset that appreciates in value. And their first choice is to invest in crypto. And I think the reason is because, you know, our platform and other platforms across the world as well have made it very easy for people to sign up and have direct access to exchanges. So direct retail access to exchanges where they're getting access to high liquidity and affordable fees. While, you know, obviously in the stock market, you have to go into a brokerage, which essentially connects you to an exchange, or, you know, depending on the setup that they have. But actually in the Middle East, you still don't have an easy way for retail clients to buy and sell stocks where you've got the easy on-ramps and off-ramps that are available for crypto in the region. So we definitely see that younger demographic, you know, over 18 years old up to, let's say, you know, 40, that are preferring to actually invest in crypto before investing into any other asset. And actually that's something that is, you know, quite unique to this asset class and the space that we have.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
I take for a sec. I was just going to say, I think Kendrick has a really interesting platform that solves an issue about accessibility. And I think I would encourage anybody in the audience to check it out. If you go to that homepage of his, republic.co, it's incredible because typically, you know, investing in startups is something that's the domain of the elite. In fact, in the US, you often have to be an accredited investor to participate in that domain. And basically, it seems like him and others in the crypto space have made it possible to access these sorts of things that would otherwise be very difficult to access if you don't have the status and presence of being sort of among the wealthy elite. One other form of accessibility I think that might be important to point out is that actually it turns out it's very tough to access the crypto ecosystem, not necessarily because of regulation, but because of user experience and design. And so I think one of the challenges that Abra has done a really good job about is making crypto accessible in a way where you can plug in dollars from your bank account, from your credit card, to be able to get your first Bitcoin or ETH or anything else. And so if it was framed as an accessibility challenge, I think ease of use is definitely an area we stand out.
And Ben, is Abra also available to folks internationally, or is it just for US?
That's right. It's available worldwide. So Visa, MasterCard. If you go to www.abra.com/Ben, I will make sure to give you a thank you referral. But even if you just go to the regular domain, you can download the Abra app. And if, especially for those who are using the app internationally, we don't only just support the ability for cash in, cash with credit cards, but now with bank wires. So it's something where if you are somebody looking to get invested into crypto, come check out our app. If you're somebody who has crypto and is looking to be able to get cash, US dollars, without selling that crypto, we've just launched a product for that. And it's available in the Middle East this very day. www.abra.com/Ben, B-E-N.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. And so when do you think, or what do you think is going to happen when banks and countries create their own digital currency? How is that going to compete with some of the pre-existing digital currencies today?
All right, cool. I'll take a stab at that, given that we actually did a test with the Central Bank of Jordan for the digital dinar. We did that on public net Ethereum. It was a shit show because basically banks aren't ready, at least in the Middle East. They barely have APIs. So trying to superimpose a stable coin that's built on public net Ethereum doesn't really work. But to answer the question directly, today, central bank digital currency solves one of two problems. So that's like, at the risk of sounding too philosophical, money is a method or a technology to move economic value over space and time. When I say moving money over time, basically how well it stores its value over time. Like if you deposited $1 in a bank in 1970, it would have lost 80% of its value. So the dollar isn't necessarily a good way to move value over time. So no matter if you tokenize it, if you do a central bank digital currency, whatever, the monetary policy behind it and the fractional reserve banking system means that it's a bad way of moving value over time. However, these central bank digital currencies will improve fiat currency's ability to move over space. So I think it solves one of two problems, and I do think that they will coexist. So you will have Bitcoin and you will have digital yuan, you will have a digital euro, but they serve very different purposes. And it's also important to remember that there isn't one winner takes all when it comes to money. Like until today, people rent apartments in Dubai using checks. There's no logical reasoning for it, except that humans are lazy and they're resistant to change. We still use cash, we still use credit cards. So just like if you think of it as 100% pie, crypto central bank digital currency will chip away from those archaic methods of payment, but it's not going to be like everyone switches to crypto in one day. Like Tesla announced that they're going to accept Bitcoin for payment. That doesn't mean that people won't wire money and use other ways of buying. So,
Talal, do you see, Yasmeen and Ola and Ben, do you guys see a common currency in the region? Perhaps a digital currency shared by, the GGC overall rather than country by country?
I'll take that one. At least.
Talal, please take it.
Like, all right, just so that we're very clear, as Middle Eastern countries, we're not really good at coordination, right? Like, you still need visas to go between one country to the other. You don't have passporting loans when it comes to funds. If I'm registered in ADGM, that doesn't mean I can sell in Dubai. Or if I'm registered in Kuwait, that doesn't mean I can send in. So before we reach that dream of being able to have one single currency, there's several prerequisites like passporting laws. For example, if I register a fund in Sweden, I can sell it in Germany. Even though they're different countries, the EU have kind of figured that out. There are efforts. There's a new like Middle Eastern payment system. Like, just think how insane it is. If I want to move money between Dubai and Kuwait, it actually goes from dirham to dollar all the way to the Federal Reserve in the US, and then from dollar to Kuwaiti dinar. So I think I'd love for that to happen, but I'm more on the realistic side, I guess.
I can add a bit of color on that, actually, because probably the Middle East is among those regions in the world that is most fragmented on an economic sense, more than anything else, really. And it's actually quite a struggle to do business in the Middle East, mainly because of that fragmentation, where essentially, you getting into any country in the Middle East is as if you're setting up from scratch. It's a different type of rules, laws, almost like you're in a different continent. So there's not much commonalities when it comes to economies and monetary policies and all of that. Having said that, I think there was an interesting project that SAMA, the central bank in Saudi, and the central bank in the UAE wanted to launch leveraging blockchain technology for interbank settlements between Saudi and the UAE. And the project was called Abid. And they've worked on it, I think, late 2019 or so. It didn't really see the light yet. But however, what I can say is that the central banks in the region, I mean, globally, obviously, I would say they are way more advanced in terms of either experimenting, prototyping, or getting to a stage where it could actually be ready commercially. In the region, I can definitely say the central banks are thinking about it. Are they ready from an infrastructure standpoint? I think to varying degrees, some countries are more ready than others. But I don't think next year we'll see a stable coin backed by a national currency in the region. I don't think so. Is it coming? I think yes, they're definitely thinking about it. And it's definitely something that, digitizing, I think, money and payments is something really high on the national agendas of a lot of countries in the region. So, we're part of some of those talks, but when will it happen? That requires some infrastructure, digital infrastructure that I don't think is still there.
Thank you. And, for the sake of time, I'm actually going to switch gears. I feel like we could talk about this topic for an hour in itself. But let's talk about non-fungible tokens, NFTs. They've kind of also taken a lot of space in the crypto media world right now. Can you guys just kick it off and tell the audience what are NFTs and why are people so fascinated by them?
Anyone? No one wants to take that question. All right.
I feel like there's so much.
Let me take a crack at this.
Kendrick, yeah.
It's changed me quite a bit, and I just want to tee it up and aligning it with the conversation that we just had. So NFT obviously stands for non-fungible tokens, and there's one very clear narrative is that if you look at it as like digital art, but that can be authenticated and transfer with that authentication. So pretty much anything, a music album cover, a selfie of myself. Not that anyone would, that's a terrible example, but I actually have seen. I think it was the other day, Jack Dorsey running an NFT sale for his very first tweet. So all it is that it's just the creator saying that this is original, unauthenticated copy, and it generates a tremendous interest. And in fact, I am surprised it's getting all of a sudden overnight the adoption and the conversation that it has, because the notion of that is not new. Whether you're a college student 10 years ago buying a poster of Monet for $5.99 down the street and hang it in your college dorm room because you can't afford anything more, like this variation of this is just done at the digital level, but the the awareness and how it hits mainstream headlines news, I think goes such a long way to attract the attention of people who are skeptic about the space overall. And I think just be able to capturing people's attention already goes a very long way. Hopefully out of 1 million people seeing that headline news, just a few percent getting involved with just a little bit, of money, $5, $10, I call it, starting to learn or learning by getting involved, by starting, I think will or has already done so much good for the industry overall. But I'm very curious to hear what others on the panel think.
Yeah, so at BitOasis, we're fans of NFTs, mainly because I think among all the different type of crypto applications with NFTs, there's actually a clear product market fit when it comes to creatives and creative industries. Specifically, I would say, digital art and music industries as well. So obviously there's a lot happening right now, and usually in crypto markets, you've got the highs and the lows, and then you really kind of realize where the biggest value add is. But I'll take one example or share one example with you guys where I think, and that's mostly interest that I have. It's not that I'm an expert in NFTs, by the way, or digital art or any of that. But one thing around digital art, and the reason it didn't break into the mainstream where the auction houses like Christie's, Sotheby's, etc., took it seriously, is because with digital art, it's hard to authenticate real ownership, and it's hard to track the provenance, which is the change of hands of art from the actual creator to the first collector, second collector, etc., etc. Because with digital art, you copy paste, and then you've got the same copy of the digital art, and they've got kind of millions of copies of that. With NFTs, essentially what it has established for digital art is that there is an actual origin or source of the digital art itself that you can authenticate on the blockchain. And because of that, essentially, it solved the issue around digital art and ownership of digital art, where you can track it all the way back to the creator. And I think with the auction that Christie's held for Beeple, where his piece went or been sold with 69 million, is that it's essentially an announcement for all the digital artists out there, saying that the old guards essentially of the art world now take digital art seriously. And I think this is just going to create a whole wave of creation and more creativity among digital artists, where essentially now you can actually sell a piece of digital art and be among the top 3 selling live artists in the world, and it's here to stay. So I think this is like a strong message. Yes, I think there's two sides of the story as well in terms of NFTs and the future of NFTs. But I think in that specific application around digital art, there's a clear product market fit. Now, how long it would stay and how much value it would create, I think time will tell. It's not obviously still time tested, so we'll see how it goes. But it is definitely exciting, definitely an exciting space.
Wonderful. Anyone else, just before we move on?
Yeah, final point on NFTs, because like to go to the basic level, a fungible token is something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where every token is identical to the other token. So if I have one Bitcoin and Ola has one Bitcoin, we both have the same type of token. With NFTs, it's unique, and you prove that it's unique. So for example, I would buy Kendrick's selfie, by the way, as long as there's only 2 of them, and each of us has one. No, but yeah, basically what I'm getting at is that with an NFT, you can verify that there's only a specific number of that piece of digital art, and people love that type of stuff. Like I remember when you used to play like Counter-Strike or other types of video games, you would spend real world money on buying skins or a specific type of knife or a gun, even though it's the digital world. So anyone that thinks NFTs isn't the future clearly lives in the 80s or the 70s. Is there a bubble behind it? Obviously, but so does any type of new tech. Like from ICOs, obviously it was a bubble, but now we have DeFi because of it. And I'll take up the NFTs, Kendrick. Thank you.
Amazing. I would buy your selfie too, Kendrick. So we might have to argue for that, Talal.
I've been getting to the market.
Yasmeen, Can we
Yes.
can we buy a commemorative NFT of this conference?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Making.
Kind of bidding on that.
It's a great idea. I'll look into it. So we're actually at time, but I wanted to give you guys a last kind of chance for a takeaway and then something that has surprised you the most in this space. So what's like the main takeaway that you want to leave folks with when it comes to crypto? It could be particular to your company, your mission, your business, your value system, and then something that surprised you.
First, something that surprised me, and I think it always surprises me, is just the pace of people shipping new products, innovation, the speed some projects are moving at in the crypto space. Overall, yeah, obviously not just in the exchange space. So that's something that continues actually surprising me, but it's great to see because it's very exciting to be part of the space. Yeah, that's mostly from my side. I think that you had a second question as well in terms of.
Yeah, what's your main takeaway? What do you want to tell the audience about? It could be your position, your company, your mission. What do you want people to kind of think about when they think about the crypto space?
It's really the future of finance, and I would say not just future of finance. Really, it's the future of ownership, of value, whether it's in the digital space or in the physical space. So I think if you're still wondering if crypto is here to stay or not, I'll definitely advise you to read a couple of articles and just kind of form your own opinion on the space after researching it. And the best way to really get into the space is to buy your first crypto, buy your first Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever it is. I think that's where the magic starts, and then you get hooked forever. So definitely buy your first crypto and read a couple of articles. It'll definitely help.
Thank you so much.
It's hard to follow that. One of the things that I think I'm increasingly or continue to be so excited about is just human nature and connectedness, and how early it still is. I mean, through the pandemic, we see now through this virtual conference that everyone is still able to connect to IDA, and crypto and the entire industry is very much about the world being more connected, being more accessible, people getting involved at lower amount across different countries. And I think one of the question here, someone was asking about the ecosystem, and it seems like a certain project is no longer as accessible to participate. And I think that I don't think that that's the case. I think we only see a glimmer of the true potential ahead. It's still very, very early in the ecosystem. So just second what Ola has said earlier, I think getting started as a way to learn and get involved with the money that you can afford to lose, whatever it is that you believe in. I hope that's blockchain technology, but it can be a startup or a small business down the street. And I think that's the only way. First of all, you won't regret it by adopting that approach, that thesis when it comes to this new technology. But overall, I think it's a very meaningful way to just be a global citizen and have a key role in building whatever it is that you find compelling, that you find meaningful.
Yeah, I'd piggyback on that. I would just say that if anything surprises me, it's that maybe more people haven't tried crypto, played with it. I think it's hovering around somewhere about 1% global penetration. And if anything, it seems like a lot of the marketing and sort of first interest for people is around, sort of a fear of missing out, watching the number go up and so forth. And I think, given how early stage it is for crypto, the ability to just learn more about it, to invest a very small amount, to try it out, to make mistakes, I think is just integral to, I think, appreciating the future possibilities of it so much more. And so I think, I'd like to think that the people around this room are doing a really great job of making it more and more accessible, and something that people can, even if it's natively digital, get their hands on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Final point from my side. A lot of us offer similar services, whether it's with Ola and BitOasis or Ben or Kendrick, but the reality is a rising tide lifts all ships. So I don't necessarily see crypto service providers competing with one another. But I, as Ben mentioned, penetration is 1%, which means the number of crypto users today is comparable to the number of internet users in 1998. So even though it's not necessarily early, it's definitely not late. Going back to what Ola said, get your hands dirty, buy your first Bitcoin, buy your first Ethereum, withdraw it, play around with products that are decentralized, like Uniswap, Compound, etc. There's so much to learn, and there's no point attending such conferences and events if you haven't actually tried it yourself. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for everyone in the audience, go and buy your first crypto or more if you haven't already purchased, and tell us, what you learned from this. If you, if you want to tag us, tag folks on the panel, that would be great. But again, thank you so much, Kendrick, Ben, Ola, Talal. You guys were fantastic. I learned a lot. I feel like I've worked in this space on and off for a while, so I've learned a lot from this conversation. I'm sure everyone listening has, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's an honor.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you all again.
Thank you.
Thanks
Take care.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.